Nice. Well, I guess we'll start. Hi, my name's Beth, and this is the first episode of my crafting podcast. I am predominantly a knitter, but with the occasional crochet project, and sometimes some other stuff too. I have quite a lot to get through, so we're just going to get straight into it. So during April and May, I had a bit of a rush with knitting because I wanted to get a few tops done before my holiday, which I managed to do. So we'll get started with the first one. This is the Lily Sheer Top by Irene Lynn. I made it in drops brushed alpaca silk on 4.5 needles for the body, accidental 4mm needles for the sleeves, and 3.5 for the I-cord edging. I knitted it in a size 3 and I used just over 4 balls of the drops brushed alpaca silk. And it took me a total of 33 days. I had a very specific use case in mind when I made this t-shirt. I was looking for something to go out to a party. The sample that Irene Lynn knits up is much sheerer than this one. But because I used the brushed alpaca silk rather than a mohair, it ended up being a lot thicker, which actually has turned out a little more wearable. So I've worn this a few times post the party I had planned to wear it to. So I feel very comfortable wearing this out of the house as well as and to work as well as like special occasions. So that's nice. This is the first time I attempted to do German short rows, or any kind of short rows for that matter. I'd never done the lengthening at the back. I did have to restart 3 times, but I managed to get the hang of it in the end. And yeah, once I'd gotten through that point, it was a really nice, easy pattern. I love the volume of the sleeves. That was really fun to do in pattern. And yeah, overall, it's just a really nice piece. I really enjoyed the pattern writing. It was really easy to follow. And I'll definitely be knitting some more of Irene Lynn's designs. They are all so gorgeous and like pretty and intricate. So yeah, very happy with my first piece. Next up is actually one of my holiday tops that I made. This is my Darjeeling top by Trust the Mojo. This is knit in Senesgan Tin Line in the colour 1015. They're a cream shade and I held it double. I used 3mm needles for the body and 3.5 for the I-cord finishes. I knit it in a size 5, which is an extra large, and I'll explain why I did that. I used 190 grams, which is just under 4 balls, and it took me a total of 17 days. Now keep in mind I did rush this one, so that's why it didn't take me very long. It's also a very potato chippy pattern and it was quite addictive. So I had a specific gauge that I wanted to knit this pattern up at. I wanted it to be in a cream colour, but I didn't want it to be see-through. So I did lots of gauge swatches with this yarn on different size needles. And I came to knitting it on a 3mm needle with the yarn held double. And that gave me this really nice kind of close texture whilst also keeping it very summer appropriate, very light and breezy. That did mean, however, I was knitting this pattern very off gauge, which is why I then picked the size 5 to compensate. So knitting it on a size 5 at this gauge gave me the same measurements as I would have for the medium, which is my usual size, so a size 3. And I really like how this turned out. It is so cute. I was going to knit the crop length, but I went for the medium to also compensate for that off-gaugeness. It hits just at the waistband of any shorts or trousers that I'm wearing, because I wear high-waisted things. And yeah, I really love it. It has this gorgeous picot edge and lace design at the bottom. It was really satisfying for me to get through. That was a really fun part of the pattern. And then once you're past that, it is just stockinette the whole way up. The pattern includes a tick list for each row, which is genius. I wish more patterns did this. it really got me to just keep going once I could tick off each row. So that was really pleasing. I really enjoyed that aspect of the pattern. Speaking of the pattern, it is quite wordy. I did find there was a lot of text and it probably could have been slimmed down a bit, but because of the tick list, you can ignore most of the pattern once you've like decoded the first row, and then you can just go back to the tick list and carry on with it. So that's really nice. I really like the buttons that I chose as well. These buttons were in Stash. I have way too many buttons. I managed to collect them from various sources. I have way too many. So I'm really glad that I managed to use, I think it's 6 of them. Yeah, I managed to use 6 of them in this pattern. So yeah, I really like the way it turned out, and I like the way it looks. My next finished object is my camisole number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I knitted it in Knitting for Olive cotton merino in the colour Dusty Blue Whale. I used 3mm needles for the body, 2.5 for the hem, and 2mm for the neck and arm finishings. I knitted it in a size 4, which is a size large, and I used 107 grams, so just nicked into that third skein. So yeah, just over 2 balls, and it took me a total of 11 days. This is also another one I rushed because I was desperate to take it on a holiday with me. I don't think I would usually knit up something this quickly, but I was really happy to take it. This has become my favourite tank top to wear. I have worn it so much already, and it's only been off the needles for about a month. I love it. I've actually had this pattern for about 2 years, and I started making it immediately in the Tinline yarn actually before it was a Darjeeling top. And I started it, I had a good time. It was the first time I'd ever knit in the round properly, which was fun. And I got to the point where I'd knitted the whole body and the hem, and I put the neckband on because I wanted to try it on. I put it on and it was see-through and too tight, and I was gutted. I had based it on a top that I already owned, and I really wanted like more cropped tank tops, and it just wasn't how I envisioned. So I put it away. I put it in hibernation until I figured out what I wanted to do, and that obviously eventually came the Darjeeling top. But I really wanted to have another go at this pattern, so I recently found a local yarn shop to me that sells the whole Knitting for Olive range, and I'd never used it and I wanted to try it. And in the shop I was able to feel all the yarn, and I loved how soft the cotton merino felt. I wasn't that fussed on the merino, annoyingly. I know everyone talks about the merino. I didn't really like it, but the cotton merino was lovely. So I got 3 top quantities, and one of them became this camisole number 9. I have obviously cropped it quite a lot to what the pattern suggests because I was modelling off a top I already have, and I did go with the size up than I would usually knit because I was so terrified to make it too small, and I love the amount of ease I have. It's not baggy, but it is comfortable. It's not tight in any places. I like how airy it is around my waist, which really helps. I also went for a darker yarn than I originally tried, also to mitigate the sheerness, and you can't tell that I'm wearing a full sports bra at the moment, which is great. I don't tend to wear proper bras. I tend to mostly wear sports bras, and this strap situation hides it perfectly. I want to make about 20 of these in different colours. I'm going to try to stop myself because I know there are other tank top patterns, but when you just find the one, when you just find the pattern and it just clicks and you're like, I need this in every colour that ever exists. So yeah, this is my camisole number 9. This probably won't be the last camisole. In fact, I know it's not the last camisole number 9 because I have a whip. So stay tuned. Anyway, my camisole number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. So this is my Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. I knit it in Sanisgarn alpaca silk in the colours putty, plum pink, old pink, petroleum and pistachio ice cream. I knitted it all in 4mm needles in the size 5, which is an XL. I don't know how much yarn I used exactly because I was actually using an old jumper. I pulled apart an older jumper to remake it, and I worked on this for a total of 33 days. I am so happy with this blouse. I love it so much. I originally got this yarn 2 and a bit years ago in Denmark, before I knew anything about Scandinavian yarns or popular knitwear designers. I just went to a few yarn shops and I picked this yarn out purely by feel. I thought it was the softest thing I'd ever touched, and I got 6 balls of it, and I didn't know what I was going to make. I brought it home and I scoured Ravelry, and I couldn't quite find the picture I had in my head. I had quite a lightweight, stripy top, but I couldn't find the pattern I had in mind. I was quite restricted at the time because I didn't know as many knitting techniques. I wasn't comfortable knitting in the round at that point. So I decided to plump for a crochet jumper. And I loved making it. I really enjoyed making it. But by the time I finished it, I really didn't like the way it fit or the way the fabric turned out. It was, because it was a double crochet stitch, it turned out quite wholly, and it turned this really light, fluffy, airy yarn into quite a thick texture. So I wasn't very happy with it, but I wore it for a good bit until recently I decided to unravel it. That was a hard choice, but I'm really glad I did. So I unraveled it. I put all the sections in different Ziploc bags so that I wouldn't accidentally pick up like a piece of yarn that I had for the arm and then run out if I was using it for the body. So I put everything in Ziploc bags. I labelled it up, and I decided on the Cumulus blouse pattern. I was between the Cumulus blouse and the Cumulus tee, both the O-neck versions, because I really did like the closer gauge of the tee, but my yarn suited the blouse better. And after a couple of gauge swatches, I decided that I would plump for the blouse on the 4mm needles and knit it off gauge and modify the ease as well. So I decided to go for a size 5, and with my yarn calculations, that should have given me the same measurements as a 2, so an S, which is the ease that I wanted overall. This is the first time I ever actually did a mid-project block, so I decided to get to joining for under the underarm, and I knitted a couple of inches and then I blocked it. And I hit the measurements with a centimetre to spare. I had a centimetre extra ease than as stated for the size 2, which was perfect. I was so happy with myself. So I continued, and I love it. It's so soft. It's so drapey and pretty. I'm really happy with it. I'm so happy with it. It's kind of the perfect throw over for this like spring weather, because it's not too heavy, but it's also a long sleeve. So yeah, absolutely love this pattern. This is my first ever petite knit pattern, and I can see why people like them. They are really easy to follow. So yeah, can't complain. This is actually the first time I did jogless stripes as well. It works really well. I did the method where you knit a whole row in the new colour, and then you slip the first stitch of that new colour on the second row purlwise, so it kind of creates a slightly elongated stitch, and then knit as normal, and it works really well. You can't really see the elongated stitches at all once it's all made up. The one thing that I would change about this is I did the colour changes on the beginning of row marker, which is down the front of one of these raglan seams. I should have done it on the back. I should have done it on the back. Some of the colour ends, I've woven them all in, but sometimes the end bits poke out, and obviously if it was on the back, I wouldn't be able to see it. But sometimes I see them and I try cut them, and it makes me very nervous to cut so close to the actual garment. But hey ho, we learn. But I love how the stripes came out. I love this one so much, and yeah, very happy with it. Glad I went for the O-neck as well. It suits my style better. This is the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. The last finished object that I have for you is a pair of socks. They're the Petal Drop socks handmade by Florence. I made them out of Valley Yarns Huntington in the size Harvest Orange, and I made them on a 2.25mm needle. I used 62 grams, which is just over they come in 50-gram hanks, so I did have to break into a second hank. Annoying. I made them in a size 2, and they took me 27 days. I knit the sock on small circumference needles. That is how I prefer to make my socks. I have recently just about managed to conquer magic loop. I don't like it. It's fine, but it really disengages my flow. So for socks, I prefer to knit them small circumference and then swap to some teeny tiny DP ends for the toe. I love this pattern. I love this pattern so much. I knit this sock predominantly on various forms of transport. I take the tube 5 days a week into work, and that's like 40 minutes each way. And I also took this sock on the plane on my holiday. The pattern really lends itself to travel because it took me a little bit to memorize the repeat, but not as long as I thought. I thought I would have to keep referring to the pattern, but the repeat is really nice. There's only like a complicated row, not very often, so the rest is like a basic rib. And this is only my third ever sock and my second one at a sock weight gauge. I may be fully converted. I really like socks. I don't like this yarn. I have knit with it once before. These are actually leftovers from a top I made a while ago, and I had no issues with it then. When I knit it in this sock, it was quite splitty, and the yarn actually broke a few times on me, so I had a lot more ends to weave in than I wanted to. So I do have just enough yarn for another pair of socks exactly this size. So I can't make them any taller in the cuff, but I don't know if I'll do it. So I guess check in for the next podcast to see if another pair of socks turn up in this colour, but I don't love it. And I would like to try other sock yarns as well. I'm a new sock knitter, so there are so many awesome sock yarns out there. What I will be doing is more Florence Miller's patterns. I have a load of them in my favourites, and I really like the way that she wrote this pattern. And yeah, I'm excited to knit more. Very happy with my socks. Not super happy with the yarn, but that's okay. All right, finally finished with finished objects, and we go on to whips. I just have 2 whips for you today. One of them I hope to have finished very soon, and the second one is a long term, which won't be done for many months, but I'm really trying to get ahead with it. So I shall do my short term first. This is another camisole number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. This one is in Knitting for Olive's Terracotta Rose. Still knitted on all the 3mm needles for the body, 2.5 of the hem, 2 for the edge finishings. I have an armhole left to do. I am so close. I have picked up my stitches and I've done 1 row, so I just have to keep going with it. The only difference between this one and the blue one that I showed is that it is 4 rows longer in the body, just for a little bit more length. I'm really hoping I can get this done this week, maybe in the next few days, and it will be a finished object for next time. But that is my current, soon to be finished top. So my next whip, my long-term whip, is actually this monster here. This is my temperature blanket. It is made from Stylecraft Special DK, and I'm using a 4mm needle. I am making this, I'm using the temperatures for the year that I turned 30, so from 29 to 30, and so it's all historical data. I have everything. I don't need to wait around for anything. I started it in November 2023, and my aim is to have it finished before my next birthday, which would be November 2025, which means it will have taken me a total of 2 years if I stay on track. Currently, I am on track with it. I have a little spreadsheet, and it's got all the colours that I need, all the dates, all the temperatures, the colour that it responds to, how many rows of each colour I have left. When I finish a colour or a ball, I know when I'm supposed to. I also use that spreadsheet to figure out exactly how much yarn I'd need for the entire blanket. So I have everything I need. I don't need to make another order. It is all here. And the spreadsheet works on the assumption that I will work a row a day. At the moment, I'm actually working more than a row a day. So I'm gaining some time, which is awesome. There will be time over the summer where I'm not going to want to work on this. So the more time that I get back now, while it's a little cooler, the better. I'm really hoping that I can have this finished. When it is finished, I'm planning on doing a whole video on this process. I have never made a blanket before, and I probably will never again. I am not a long-term whip person. I love a jumper. I love a big, chunky jumper that's going to take me a couple of months. But once something starts to take years, I find it really hard to stay motivated. I really want this blanket finished, but it takes me an hour each row to crochet. By the time I finish, this blanket will have 366 hours of work in it. There's too much work. It's too much. But when it is finished, it will be such a lovely celebration of what was quite an interesting / tough / fundamentally weird year for me. And I'll talk about it more in that video if I ever finish it. But the aim is before my birthday, before November 2025. We're gonna finish this. I'm not going to list the colours because there are 12 of them. Anyway, that'll all be in the other video, but I will attempt to unfold this to show you. It is now so big, I can't work on it anywhere other than this sofa. And actually, I have to take the sofa bed out or just use the long section so that my legs can be out because it is so heavy. I mean, it is utterly gorgeous. I'll be so happy when it's finished. It's just so big. I mean, it is double folded still. I couldn't show you the whole thing because I can't hold it up. It's so large. When it's finished, it will fit a queen size bed. But I think I am just going to put it like on the back of the sofa, because hell if I'm going to spend this long making a blanket to hide it in a bedroom. I need people to see it and tell me what a good job I've done. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep it in the living room, but we'll see. That is my long-term whip. So I'm going to put her away now. Now on to acquisitions. So I just have a couple of things to share. First off, I bought another tank top quantity of Knitting for Olive Merino. This is in the colour Dusty Artichoke. I have been waiting for an excuse to buy this colour for a while now. And I know it's their most popular colour, but I love this soft green. I love it so much. And yeah, can't wait to make another tank top. The question is, do I make another camisole number 9, a third one, or do I try something else? I do have my eye on the twisted loop top by Other Loops, but that is a fully ribbed camisole, and I don't know if I want to do a ribbed camisole. I really like cable, so that bit doesn't bother me. Like, it does look really pretty. But I love the fit of the camisole number 9 so much that I don't know if I want to try a different thing. I'm really not usually averse to trying new patterns, but I've also never loved a pattern and how it fits and how it suits me like the camisole number 9. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but this is going to be a tank top. Stay tuned. Next up, I have 2 colours of Knitting for Olive. I have the colour Marzipan and the colour Blue Tit in both the merino and the soft silk mohair. These are going to be a pair of colourwork mittens. This will be my first colourwork project, and don't worry, I'm going to practice first. Oh, hello! I was really drawn to these colours, and this project is going to serve a number of purposes. Firstly, I really want to work up to making a colourwork jumper in the autumn-winter time. And secondly, I really want to see if this merino blocks out softer. I don't really like the way it feels right now, so I'm hoping it blocks out to be a little bit softer. The last thing is, I really want to see if I'm sensitive to mohair. I have quite sensitive skin. I have eczema on my arms and on my neck, so there are parts of me that are more sensitive than other places. But I'm not so sensitive to alpaca. Like, I can wear this alpaca silk relatively nicely. It's not itchy at all. I don't want to stop using or not use a fibre because I think I'm allergic to it, or sensitive to it. It feels very soft. So we'll see. So I thought a pair of mittens would be a safe option to give it a go. So yeah, that's what these are going to be. I'm thinking about making the Songbird mittens by Erica Hauser. They are really pretty and I really like that style. So I'm going to have a go. Wish me luck. I'm really hoping that I just enjoy colourwork. I am an English style knitter. I throw my yarn, and for learning colourwork, I am going to try and attempt to also learn continental so I can hold my yarn in different hands. But we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to try it. I've been dreaming of these mittens, so yeah, that's my Knitting for Olive, I guess, mini haul. That is everything for this podcast. It's been a bit of a bumper first episode because I had so many finished objects. I guess that's what happens when you rush making a bunch of garments for a holiday. So I think there will be a lot less for the next one, but we'll see. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one, hopefully. You're going to start to meow and it's going to be annoying. Just going to sit there? Okay. You are gonna meow.